Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, The Last Resort, Let's Watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. If you're a cast member of this show or any of the shows that I watch, keep in mind that everything I'm saying is completely speculative, and you shouldn't use these videos as a replacement for in-person tailored therapy and assessment for yourself. Let's watch.
I mean, you could have got up and came and sat over there. It is what it is. I didn't sit next to you. I didn't.
So, with Kelly and Molly, Kelly, what attracted you to Molly in the beginning?
Okay, that's a pretty standard question. I just don't want to criticize any clinician. That's really not a pleasurable thing for me, even in my supervision work or when I'm with colleagues or something, or even as a client. When I've had and I have had some therapists that were, in my estimation, missing the mark with me anyway. Maybe they work well with a lot of other people, but pretty quickly I was like, ooh, this is not working. And I could critique them, but that's not really the point here. And who knows, maybe it was just a bad fit or something. But I really, whenever I watch the therapists on these shows, I really don't want to criticize. In fact, sometimes I will talk for a while criticizing a therapist while trying not to. And then later I'll edit the whole thing out. I'll just no. And some people might say like, well, Kirk might be worried about lawsuits. No, I'm not worried about that. Maybe I should be, but I don't think so. My sense of what could incur a viable lawsuit against me, I don't think me commenting on what I'm watching as a clinician, I don't think that would be considered liable or some other kind of legal problem. I don't know that, but I don't think so. So it's not legal issues that I'm worried about or being sued. It's more just professional courtesy and also, you know, when I'm watching these cast members have their problems in relationships, I think I often will say what they're doing is pretty normal. It might be a little bit of an exaggerated case, but maybe not. It's just that it's on this reality TV show. So a lot of us do this. You know, I do that sometimes. So with the cast members, when I'm pointing out their issues and their behaviors that indicate issues that might be present but might not be, you know, I'm pretty tentative about things. But if I'm watching a therapist and I definitively say that was bad therapy, which I don't know if I'd ever say that, but if I imply something like that, then I don't know, it just feels more real to me. It's one thing to comment on an edit of a reality TV show because the cast members, I hope y'all know this, I know this, that these individuals are deep human beings just like everyone else. And the edit that we're seeing is only just skimming the surface and might even have shenanigans and weird editing in it. So I feel okay with commenting on the edit and the show because I think I know, and I would hope that they would know, that I'm not really commenting on them. I'm commenting on what we're being shown. Whereas the therapy being presented, you could argue might have some of that in it, but some of the time, the therapy that I see on this show, there's almost nothing positive that I can point to. And, you know, maybe it's edited terribly, but it doesn't look that way to me sometimes. It just looks like bad therapy. And a therapist that I've seen before, you know, I've been collegial with people who have really weird points of view about what therapy is and what you should be doing with clients given particular circumstances. You know, it's a very confusing profession. It has a lot of pitfalls regarding confusion and misunderstanding. And, you know, it's really hard to retain or even obtain, just in the first place, a professional, objective-ish, because no one's really objective, but it's really hard to obtain the paradigm of a therapist that I would call a true therapist, someone who understands the landscape, who knows themselves well enough, their countertransference, can see the cultural elements that are interfering or influencing the way that they are interpreting the client, can see the path forward to actually help the client instead of just bludgeoning them into doing what you want them to do. integrating all of the research, having all the experience. It's a wisdom. I talk about that as an instructor, that there's a wisdom that develops as a clinician. It's not expertise. It's related to expertise, but it's not exactly expertise. It's related to experience and education, but it's not exactly that. It's a gestalt that you develop that integrates everything, that integrates yourself, your own experiences in life. And from that, you have a vibe, a felt understanding that kicks in automatically, that you don't have to search for as you are helping people. And it's something that you strive for as a clinician. And I think you develop it piecemeal in the beginning of your career. But if you are constantly learning and struggling and examining and looking at yourself and looking at your therapy and looking at your clients over time and learning from your mistakes, I think you eventually get to a place where, or at least you're given the opportunity to get to a place. So it's hard. That's really hard to obtain, and I recognize that. And so, unfortunately, I think there's a lot of therapists out there that haven't had the mentoring or because I've had wonderful mentors who would help me along the way when I didn't know that they were helping me in that way. Phil Cushman, for example, my mentor who died, unfortunately, last year, he was shepherding me. When I look back, whether he knew it or not, but I think he might have known it, that he was shepherding me towards that Gestalt wisdom before I knew I didn't have it or needed it. He was really giving me the space, but being pretty pointed at times, and really was, I think, at the very least, it helped me to get there. It's a weird process. Anyway, so I really don't want to criticize, and I'm terrified that I'm gonna either have to, or I'm going to edit everything out, or I'm going to be very sly in my phrasing or something. I don't know. I just don't want to be there. I want to focus on the couples. And I shake fist, old therapist shakes fist at production team. Why didn't you just hire some regular old therapists that, I don't know.
I thought she had a big heart. I like how she was doing her charity work. So that's what made me reach out to her.
Oh, so I'm really long-winded today. So her initial question, what attracted you to her in the beginning? Yeah, it's a great question. However, it's a bit of a risk, particularly because they've identified these two, I think Kelly and Molly. I've never watched them before, that they are sitting very far from each other. Kelly, I think his name is, has a real sour face the whole time, like, I don't know why I'm here. And to ask a question like that of someone who might have 9 toes out of the door is risky, because for those individuals, they might be so contemptuous and so out of love, at least in their mood, that it might be really hard for them to remember the good times, and they won't be able. It's one of the markers that John Gottman found that indicated that an individual or a couple had gone down a road of contempt where they couldn't remember why they were attracted to their partner, whereas couples that haven't gone down that road, when you ask them that question, they have a much easier time identifying why they fell in love with someone. So it is a bit of a risk, because it could out that reality, and it could be very hurtful to the other person. But, maybe it's good to just get that out in the open. Let's rewind and hear what he said.
I thought she had a big heart. I like how she was doing her charity work, so that's what made me reach out to her.
Okay, so it's hard to know what the therapists are getting at. I would have loved to have seen an assessment, and maybe it happened off camera because it wouldn't be very interesting, but I would, if I were in their shoes, I would want to know everyone's name. I would want to know what they want to get out of therapy as couples and as individuals, because there's a possibility that Kelly, I think that's his name, would say, I don't even know why I'm here, or something like that. It'd be really important to know.
Was in a powerful job. He was committed to something.
Jovi and Yara, what was the attraction?
We have a lot of similar interests. We both love to travel, and we connected.
He was so funny, and he would remind me of my mom.
Okay, I didn't know this.
I tell you that all the time.
So, at the very least, we can look at the different couples and their response to this question. With Molly and I believe his name is Kelly, their response was shorter and strained, especially for Molly's partner. He was saying that, well, in the beginning, I thought she had a big heart, and implied is, now I know she doesn't have a big heart, or something like that. I think that's maybe what he was saying. And for Jovi and Yara, when they talk about why they were attracted to each other at first, you hear a much more fluid and positive response, and they laugh together. That's a huge indicator that things haven't gone down a certain road. I'm just going to say this, that I think there are shenanigans going on with these two, not only potentially in this season, but in other seasons. I was telling this to my wife. The producers love this couple because they've been on multiple seasons now. This might be the fourth season they've been on, at least third, but maybe fourth, maybe more. And they even had their own special at the end of a season. They had their, giving childbirth set of episodes that were just dedicated to them, if I remember right. And far be it from me to comment on the choices of literally one of, if not the most successful reality TV show of all time. So obviously they know what they're doing, but I don't know what they're doing. Jovi and Yara seem perfectly fine, but I think they run the risk of, if they really want to force a couple onto the show, the couples, I think, are either told or they know, look, we have to have drama. We have to fight. There has to be a story arc here. And their stories, just, even, you could argue even from the very beginning, actually, the very first, one of the very first conflicts they have in New Orleans when she arrived was that she was pranking him that she was pregnant or something. And it just seems shenanigans, meaning manufactured, either by the production team encouraging them, or they just know they need to come up with something, or I don't know. As evidenced by the fact that when they're asked what attracted you to each other, they have a lot to say about that. And it seems very fluid, and they seem on the same page. They're holding hands. So their relationship is probably a lot stronger than the show would want us to believe, because if they have a strong relationship, then it's not very interesting. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know if I'll comment much on their storyline, but it just doesn't seem to have, were there legitimate problems? Yeah. But, when you look at the whole thing, when they went to the strip club and he wanted to stay and she slapped him, I mean, that certainly looked real. But if you're Jovi, you could imagine that he manufactured that. Or maybe he didn't. I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't put it past him to do something like that. So I don't know. I'm just... it's just annoying. It feels like it's wasting our time. There could have been another couple that might have legitimately been actually, like Gino and Jasmine. I imagine that they seemingly have legit issues. There's all sorts of couples that I could think of that, but I think the production just really wants to shoehorn them in, I don't know. What do you think? All right, well, if you didn't know, we have merch, and I'm also on Cameo. You can click the links below for merch, and also to get me to do a cameo for someone. Happy birthday or happy anniversary, or maybe a general pep talk. I can't provide therapy over Cameo, of course, but I can maybe give a pep talk of a short one, a minute-long one. So you can do that if you care to. If not, obviously it's fine. And everyone, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.